From the very beginning, the mail-in ballots were a source of some degree of skepticism, if not a lot of skepticism, as being innately prone to fraud.
President Trump's legal team sticking to their claims of widespread voter fraud and irregularities in the 2020 election. And now, with the help of an outside group, the FBI is in possession of hard evidence that can potentially overturn the election results. The Voter Integrity Project surveyed tens of thousands of voters in battleground states, many of whom said they never requested nor received mail-in ballots that were ultimately cast in their name. So what does this mean in Trump's fight for the White House? Let's bring in the man who compiled the data, Matt Braynard. He was President Trump's former data strategist, and he's the founder of the Voter Integrity Project. Matt, great to see you.
Thanks for having me, Buck.
Matt, I want to get into your analysis and crunching all the numbers as you presented it earlier this week for Arizona and for Michigan. But I first want to ask you about something that's going on today with the presentation by the legal team in Georgia. Jenna Ellis, who's one of the president's lawyers on the team, tweeted out that the video evidence being shown in the Georgia Senate hearing is shocking. The room cleared at 10:30 p.m. 4 people stay behind. Thousands of ballots pulled from under a table, in suitcases and scanned. Fraud, she writes, with big caps and in all letters. Very, very kind of Trumpian conclusion to the tweet there. And we can show people that we actually have. Let's play the clip of it, and then we'll have Matt react to it.
So now they're going to start pulling these ballots out from under this table. This table, the black one, was placed there by the lady with the blonde braids at about 8:22 a.m. in the morning. So she put that table there. So the same person who's staying behind now, the same person who cleared the place out under the pretense that we're going to stop counting, is the person who put the table there at 8:22 in the morning. Yeah, I saw 4 suitcases come out from underneath the table. Yeah, upper right hand, you see the gentleman in the red. So he just pulled one out.
Now, that's not exactly confidence inspiring, Matt, when you see suitcases at a ballot counting place come out from under a table like that. There may be some explanation. I haven't heard one yet, but I want you to react to that, but also tell us, what have you seen based on the data and the numbers in Georgia? Because that's in the center of the storm right now.
Well, what has to happen next is whoever those people were in the video that were moving those suitcases around, they need to be brought in and under oath explain what happened, because I've been involved with many election day operations, observing them, doing poll watching, and there may be a legitimate explanation to it. But in the absence of that explanation, the speculation is allowed to run wild, and it does look like those are ballots being moved around. Not really sure where they came from. So they must absolutely get somebody under oath who was in that room to say, well, look, these were just absentee ballots from this precinct. They were over there for this reason, et cetera, and give an answer, because the lack of the answer is a big problem.
What are you seeing in Georgia, though, based on what the Voter Integrity Project is doing? What are the problems that you've identified?
Well, the problem I've identified in Georgia is that I believe there are more illegal ballots cast in the state than the margin of victory for Joe Biden.
It's a big problem.
I believe I've identified around over 21,000 illegal ballots cast in the state. And I actually, 2 days ago, I signed an affidavit late at night that was dropped into a lawsuit. That affidavit and exhibits are about 500 pages long. The reason the affidavit is so long is because it has the name, voter ID number, date of birth, street address, etc., of every person in whose name we believe an illegal ballot was cast. And there are 2 primary reasons those ballots were illegal. The first is that those people no longer met residency requirements for being eligible to cast a ballot in Georgia. The second reason is that they registered from obviously phony addresses, where they would register from a postal box as their residential address, not their mailing address, but this is where I live. They used a postal box, which is illegal in Georgia, clearly illegal, but they disguised those post office boxes. So instead of having a post office box and a number, it was apartment number 321, suite number 5, unit number 17, etc., meant to disguise what it actually was. And when you add those ballots together, it's far more than the margin of victory. We've discovered many other anomalies in the state of Georgia as well. People saying that they that they didn't vote and the state has them marked as voting. People saying that they didn't request absentee ballots and the state saying that they did, and a ballot going out to them, and who knows what ended up happening to it. So those are significant problems, but the damning thing is the fact that, hey, we got more illegal ballots cast in the margin of victory by a sizable margin.
Matt, we also need to look at Michigan, and I know you've been more than just looking, you've been deep diving into it. You posted a Michigan testimony about what you found there. Tell us what you've seen. I mean, here's the president last night talking about what he saw in Michigan. I want to have you react and tell us what you found, and if you can corroborate from your side of it some of the president's allegations. Play it.
This is Michigan. At 6:31 in the morning, a vote dump of 149,772 votes came in unexpectedly. We were winning by a lot. That batch was received in horror. Nobody knows anything about it. By the way, there's your line. This is one of many. Here's what is normal. And all of a sudden, look at that. This is normal, normal. Look, even here, normal. And then boom, all of a sudden, I go from winning by a lot to losing a tight race. It's corrupt.
Indeed. What did you find, Matt? What can you tell us about Michigan?
Well, I think that what the president raises is, again, another question that demands an answer. Where did that dump come from? It's not that uncommon. I mean, I know that many election nights we'll see, and I'm sure you've seen this too, where you've got a state where there are a lot of rural areas and maybe urban areas, and sometimes it's the rural areas that are slower to count their votes. So at the beginning of the night, you'll see the Democrat with a big victory, but then as those rural areas report their votes in, the Republican comes back and win, or the other way around, where there's difficulty counting in, possibly something nefarious happening, but in an urban area, and you see the Republican ahead all night, and then the Democrat area comes in all at once, and you see that major shift. So some of it may be attributable, but the answer that needs to be found is, what was that jump? Where did that come from? Does that make sense? Is it justifiable?
But what have you found? What have you found in terms of irregularities and fraud as part of the voter integrity project in Michigan specifically?
Well, in Michigan, we found a tremendous number of people who said that they did not request absentee ballots, that they were sent them, or the state said they were sent. In fact, we did one unique analysis in Michigan where we actually called a sample of the entire 3.3 million universe of people who the state said requested absentee ballots, and almost all of them, or most of them, mailed them back. Among that universe, we found almost 13% of those people said they never requested it, which is a huge problem, because requesting an absentee ballot creates an opportunity. If you were to inject ballots into the system, you can't just stuff a ballot box. You have to also have people marked off as having cast the ballot so that they reconcile. So the same number of ballots are counted as people who are marked as having voted. And if you were to run some kind of fraudulent operation, you'd need to offset the number of ballots you injected with people having voted, and perhaps you're requesting absentee ballots in these people's names. That's theoretical. What's not theoretical, though, is that 13% of our sample said we never requested the absentee ballot. We also found, just in a random sample of people we reached out to, 2.8% whom the state said voted said they didn't vote at all. We had many recordings that I played in my presentation on Michigan of people saying, "What are you talking about? I didn't cast a ballot at all." So that is a problem. The other big issue we found in Michigan is a residential issue, residency. A lot of people casting ballots in the state that don't meet residency requirements. And because I have a very limited access to data, and I had to have a very high confidence to say this person doesn't live in the state anymore, I know that number is significantly higher than the 13,000 that we were able to find with our own little independent, non-governmental
Matt,
effort.
is it the same? Your same feeling that in Michigan, that it is likely, based on your data analysis, that there were more illegal votes, because we're talking about over 140, 150,000, more illegal votes possibly cast in Michigan than the margin of victory as well?
I cannot identify a number that reaches that threshold. However, I can identify that number in Wisconsin, Arizona, and Georgia. And without those three states, Joe Biden is not the winner. And that's very troubling because we're at a point now where I'm not saying that Joe Biden didn't win, but I'm saying that his victory is in doubt, that nobody who honestly reviews the data can say with confidence that he won the election and that he is the deserved winner. And that's a problem.
Matt, thanks so much for the work you're doing and for sharing your analysis with us. We appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
Hey Team Buck, just want to say thanks so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more great content from The First, please click that subscribe button.